Hello beautiful creatures. Thanks so much for hanging out with me here today. I'm Cordelia and today's video is going to be a different video. It's a lifestyle video and specifically it's about my prophylactic double mastectomy and direct to implant reconstruction surgery that I had done. If you are not comfortable with me talking about my body issues, mental health issues, prescription medication, surgery, anything like that, you should click out and watch another video. So I'll put a link to something up here that will be like makeup or beauty related so that it will not be stressful. I need to say really quick that this is an American centric video because I'm located in Tampa, Florida in the United States. And so that means I have to deal with American healthcare. If you are outside the USA, your healthcare is different than what we have here in the US. And so I have to pay for healthcare insurance as well as paying for healthcare services. So I pay $7.88 a month for my healthcare, just to give you a perspective, so that I have what I thought was good healthcare. Unfortunately, the way the American for-profit hospital situation is set up, they can't really tell you like firm things like prices and stuff before your surgery. You basically just kind of get stuck or get told you're going to get a bill. So it can be very daunting and very frustrating. I have two backstories that I need to give you before I can jump into my story, just so that you have like a little bit of background. When I was 21 years old, I found a lump in my breast. And I went to the doctor. They told me to monitor it for a year. At the end of that year, I lost my insurance and the lump had gotten bigger. And so I went to Planned Parenthood and I was able to find an angel donor who would do my surgery so I could have the thing that was growing in my body cut out, because at that point we didn't know if it was benign or malignant. I'll put a link up here to my Planned Parenthood Save My Life video, which goes into more detail about that, but suffice it to say, that the cyst that they cut out, which was huge, it was like this size, the cyst that they cut out was benign, and that they recommended at 21 years old that I get a double mastectomy. And at that point I thought it was crazy, and because I was getting ready to turn 22, I still just felt like I was really too young to be going through this. And so I went and got another opinion, and that other opinion was like, nah, you don't need to do that right now. So I didn't do that. Backstory 2. My husband Dave, before I ever started blogging or anything like that, so back in 2007, he actually found lumps in his chest, and so he ended up having a double mastectomy and getting all of his male breast tissue cut out. And so he has been through that surgery and recovered from it. For him, they found microcalcifications in his chest, which they said were like a precursor to developing cancer, so it was a very good thing for him to get it all cut out. Okay, those are the two backstory things that you need to know before we can jump into my story. So at the end of March this year in 2023, I went to go get my mammogram. And every year since I started getting mammograms, because I had very, very dense breast tissue, I would always have a mammogram, and then I'd have to do a follow-up mammogram with an ultrasound. So this year was no different. I did my mammogram March 27th, something like that. And then to try to get in for my follow-up, it was really frustrating. I had to call a bunch of places because they couldn't get me in for at least a month, and I didn't want to wait. I hate waiting. That in-between waiting period from getting the results from my mammogram, the first and second one, I just stress. So I called around and I was able to find a place that could get me in the following week, like the first week of April, so I think it was like April 4th or April 7th, right around there. And when I went in for that follow-up, they spent a lot of extra time. They spent 3 hours. So they spent like an hour per breast with the ultrasound, and then almost that long, I guess, doing the mammogram part too. And they, took their time with me, examining everything closely. And at the end of that, they told me that I would have to start coming back every 6 months. And they mentioned that they had found microcalcifications and that I have tons of fibroids and cysts, which I already kind of knew because I've always had a lot of breast pain around my period. And sometimes I would get like shooting pains in my breast, like stabbing pains. It would feel like things were exploding. It sucked. It would always hurt. So when I talked to my GP after getting the results from the mammogram with the ultrasound, which had the microcalcifications and everything, she recommended that I go see a mastectomy doctor because she thought that I should consider getting a mastectomy. This time at 45, or at almost 45, I was 44 at this point, I decided that I was not playing around. I was going to go talk to a doctor because I was scared. And so I spent hours on the phone trying to get in to see a doctor and get on her books, and I finally got an appointment. It was like 6 weeks out. So I kept calling back daily and asking to be put on a cancellation list, and I just kept calling back to check because I wanted to get in faster than I could. One thing about the Tampa, Florida area is that we've had an explosion in population. Tons of people have moved here, and that's great, except for the fact that all of our social services are stretched thin. So we don't have enough like hospitals and people working in the hospitals to take care of the population that's here. So all of our appointments take a long time. So when I finally get in to see the mastectomy doctor, because my diligence and time spent calling and just saying, hey, is there an opening, paid off, and they were able to get me in sooner, it was a whole ordeal in and of itself. If you play video games, it felt like I had to go through 3 mini bosses before I got to see the doctor, and it was actually very stressful. The first one was great because all she wanted to do was take my blood work and get my backstory, and it was fine. The second person, they just wanted to know if I would consent to be in a study for breast cancer research, and I said yes. And then the third person was like, let's go through your family history with breast cancer to see what your risk is at. And so she got my information that I knew at that time, which was limited, and it was not the full picture. And so she's like, yeah, your risk is only at 27%. So that's not enough. Your insurance is probably not going to cover your surgery, so you're probably not going to have it. And like, this kind of flipped me out because I felt like at that point I was told, you're likely to develop cancer, very, very likely, but it's not enough for insurance companies to actually care, so you're probably going to die. This is how I was interpreting this. I'm not saying that's how it was said. I'm just saying that's how I was interpreting what she said. It was very upsetting. And she upset me so much that I basically kind of shut down. I was glad that Dave was at the doctor with me because he could, like, I shut down so bad I couldn't really talk. I was so upset. And at that point, the doctor came in, she got me to calm down, and she and I talked, and she had a different opinion than the woman who had come in before her. We talked about my family history and about like all of these different factors. And so she felt very strongly that I needed to go get genetic testing done to see what my risks were and to find out about any other family members who may have had breast cancer. So that was my next task. So after I spoke to the mastectomy doctor, I started doing more research. I started reaching out to family members that I hadn't spoken to in like 20 years to find out about if there were any more, if there were any cases of breast cancer that I should know about in our family. I found out that my biological mother's sister had breast cancer. She found a lump in her breast, and she didn't do anything about it for a year because she didn't have insurance. And by the time she had insurance and could do something about it, it had gone to stage 4, it had metastasized, and she had passed away. And then she died shortly after. So when I learned that freaked me out. There were other cousins on my mom's side that had breast cancer and had issues with it. Some were fine. The people that were fine were the people who all did the surgery. There were some people who opted not to do surgery, and they were unalived. So on my dad's side, my dad's an only child, but I have tons and tons of cousins because my grandmother had like 10 siblings. So we looked at the daughters of some of those siblings, and I had a couple on that side as well that also had breast cancer. One of the other things that the mastectomy doctor told me was, don't even bother trying to pay for this surgery on your own out of pocket because it will be well over $900,000. And that just, like, that sticker shock price just made me sick because I've never made that kind of money. And she's like, you need to go through your insurance. You need to make sure you jump through all of those hoops because otherwise you won't be able to afford it. And she was right, because that's an insane amount of money. So also during this time, I was seeing my therapist. I see my therapist regularly. Part of the reason I see my therapist regularly is for the people in my life who don't go to therapy, who stress me out. And during this whole time, my therapist was helping me mentally prepare for the fact that I was going to have to cut off parts of my body. I was going to have to cut off my breasts. I was going to have to cut off my nipples, and helping me try to make peace with that. So I spent a lot of time meditating and reflecting and doing journaling on all of those feelings to help me mentally prepare for my surgery, because I decided that I was not going to be a statistic. I was going to be a survivor, and I was going to go through with getting the surgery however I could. And so I went and did the genetic testing, and thankfully came back negative for all of the cancers and everything that they test for, which was awesome. And then I had all of this family history now that I was bringing to the mastectomy doctor. So when I went and saw her again, between her and the genetic specialist, they decided that my risk factor was 40%. And then at that point, she decided, yes, we can get you scheduled for surgery. 40% risk is high enough that your insurance will cover it. And now we need to get you in touch with a plastic surgeon. So I went through the same thing with the plastic surgeon where like she was booked weeks and weeks out. I had to call, I got an appointment, and then I also got put on a waiting list, and I kept calling back until I could get in sooner because I wanted to get this done as fast as possible, thinking about the fact that I could potentially be having those microcalcifications in my body could turn into cancer scared me. So I put as much time and energy into my health and advocating for myself as I could, because nobody is going to advocate for your health like you will. And I spent, I don't know, somewhere between probably 40 to 60 hours working to get all of my appointments done to get things to go as fast as possible. And in case you don't know, like a 40% risk is 3 times the risk of your average person to have breast cancer. So that's a pretty big risk, and I'm risk adverse. So I did not want to play those odds. During this time, I also spent a lot of time learning about implants, learning about breast plant illness, all of the pros and cons, like things to know, things to be aware about, because for me, the more I educate myself, the less I am afraid and the less anxious I will be. I also reached out to my insurance company because I have a $5,500 out-of-pocket max for in-network and an out-network cost of like, I think it's $11,000 out-of-pocket. And so I was trying to figure out, hey, what is my surgery going to cost? And they couldn't tell me. All they could tell me is that, well, your out-of-pocket deductible max is $5,500 and you haven't met that yet. And I was like thinking to myself, well, no kidding, I haven't met that yet. I'm trying to understand if I'm going to meet it with the surgery. But they couldn't give me any tips. They couldn't tell me how much it was going to cost. So I was really frustrated and irritated by that whole thing. When I finally met with the plastic surgeon, she was awesome. I told her that, I was kind of scared of implants, and I've been working to educate myself to get rid of that fear because I have never wanted implants. I wanted to have perky boobs, but I've never had them before. I have them now thanks to my surgery. But I always had big boobs, but they were never perky. So I always felt like I kind of like got cheated in that regard. She did ask me, like when I was seeing the plastic surgeon, I showed her pictures of breasts that I liked and breasts that I didn't like because I was told that you should do this. And then based off of my body type, I told her this is what I would like to see. And she's like, well, I'm not sure if we can do that because you only have so much skin to work with unless you want to do expanders. I did not want to do expanders. Expanders are very painful. My sister-in-law, Hallie, just went through doing expanders over Christmas to get to her desired size. So I knew that I didn't want to have 2 weeks of having drains in with the expanders. It would just make me want to pull my hair out. So I opted not to do that. I said, let's work with what I have. And so she's like, well, I don't think I can make you the same size you currently are. You're going to go smaller. And I was like, okay, let's just do that and see what it's like. Because I was trying to not be too tied to a specific shape, a specific size. I was mostly tied to, I want to get this diseased flesh out of my body and I want to feel better. I figured I could worry about any body dysmorphia from how I looked after I am sure I'm not going to die of cancer. But yeah, the plastic surgeon point was basically she didn't know how much of my skin would be able to be saved to know what size of implant to put in. And so I just asked her, I said, look, can you just please put in the largest size that you can fit with my skin without having to do expanders? And she's like, I got you. So at that point, after I met with both the doctors, I was then having to wait to get on the surgery schedule at Tampa General, which could take a long time. And they weren't really sure how long it was going to take. And again, I kept calling, trying to get in because I wanted to get my surgery done as soon as possible because this is a major surgery. And prior to the surgery, I had never had major surgery. I had only ever had minor surgery. I'd had this lump that was in my breast removed. I had necrotic flesh in my leg from a spider bite that was removed. And then I had PRK vision correction surgery. Those are the only surgeries I've ever had. I've only ever broken 2 bones and they were both toes. So I've not ever been very sick or surgery prone. So all of my time spent trying to call and get in places and advocate for myself as much as possible was useful. It was able to get me a surgery date of July 25th. And I think it was only 1 or 2 days before my surgery that the hospital called and asked for my copay. My copay for my surgery was $450. So I paid that. And as far as I know, that is all I have to pay for my surgery. I have yet to get more bills. I keep looking for more bills and hoping they're not arriving. This whole year has been packed. It was never just I'm going to have surgery and then not have to worry about life for the rest of the time. There was a lot of stuff going on. So when my husband Dave had surgery in January, I took care of him because he needed round-the-clock care for at least the first 2 weeks, and then I was still taking care of him, I think, for a total of maybe 6 weeks, something like that. So I thought that maybe we would get a break and that things would be calm. But no, like things kept going crazy. So a week before my surgery, Dave had gone in for his routine skin check with the dermatologist, because we both go to the dermatologist every year to look for anything in our skin, because skin cancer is no joke. And so on him, they found like a little growth in his back, and they did like a biopsy, and they decided they wanted to do surgery and remove it after the results of the biopsy. So they originally tried to schedule Dave's surgery the same day as my surgery, but we were like, that's not going to work. So we ended up scheduling his surgery for 2 days after my surgery. But that was the whole thing that was stressful. The day before my surgery, my friend Ame came and picked up nicotinamide, and she took nicotinamide for 3 weeks. And that was a godsend because that made things easier for Dave. I was very, very worried of him getting overwhelmed with trying to take care of me and the dogs, because I typically take care of the girls, and they are, 2 standard poodles. They're very intelligent. They're people oriented. They need a lot of time and attention, and I'm okay with that. That's why I have them. But I don't often, expect Dave or someone else to like just 100% take care of them when I'm normally doing that and giving them a lot of the attention and stuff that they need. But I knew that I wouldn't be in a position to do that. So Alma did a great job. That same day, the day before, I picked up my mom, Wendy, from the airport, because she came down to help Dave take care of me and stay with me in the hospital, which I really appreciated because I didn't want to stay in the hospital by myself. And I should reiterate that I am super grateful to both my mom, Wendy, and Dave for being able to help take care of me during this whole process, because I could not have done it without them. It was a lot. All right, so the night before my surgery, they have you like take a shower, and then they give you like these body wipes to wipe down your entire body with stuff that I think it's probably like an iodine or something, but it's to kill off any bacteria. So you wipe down your entire body after your shower and let yourself like air dry. And then we got up, I want to say, at like 3 or 4 in the morning the next morning to make it to the hospital by 6 a.m. for our check-in. And I had to do that whole process again. And then once I got to the hospital, I had to do that whole process again. When you get to Tampa General that early, you do valet your car, or we valet our car. But like there's like this cattle call of a ton of people all crowded outside the hospital waiting to get in for the surgery. And so you basically have to wait until you can go through one at a time. And then like you go check in, and then you go through this little thing. And then finally you talk to a person who's like, hey, what are you having surgery for today? And they ask you your background. And in this thing, they asked about, do you have any allergies? And I was like, yes, I'm allergic to soy, and I'm allergic to bell pepper. I can't eat either of these things. They need to not be in my foods. So they gave me a special red little hospital band that was like, has allergies. And it didn't matter, because the hospital still tried to serve me nasty ass, gross scrambled eggs with bell peppers in it. And ugh, yeah. So I had my surgery, and one of the, like I mentioned, one of the things that they do like before surgery is you meet with both of your doctors, which that makes sense. And they ask you what surgery you're having, and you tell them back, I'm having this surgery and I know you're doing these things. And they're like, yay, that's great. And then basically you kind of just go to sleep. And my surgery did take them significantly longer than they expected, because my breast tissue was much more dense than they anticipated, and they already thought it was going to be dense. My mastectomy doctor told me that it took her, I want to say it was an hour longer than she'd even anticipated, because she said that my breast tissue was like chipping away at concrete. And she said she'd never seen such dense breast tissue. So it made me feel really good about the fact that, I decided to do this surgery, because clearly I needed it with that dense tissue. So when I woke up from my surgery, I was doing really well with pain. My pain was basically well managed between a 4 and a 6. And one of the first things that they tell you before you can leave the hospital is that you have to be able to walk, and you have to be able to go number 1 and number 2 in the bathroom. So when I was in the hospital recovery bed before I got to my room, I made it a point to walk my ass from the hospital recovery bed to my new room hospital bed that I was going to be staying in, because I was like, I can do this. I can get up and walk. When Dave had his surgery in January, that's one of the things they emphasize is getting up and walking around. You don't have to walk a lot. Just walk some to get that blood flow and help prevent clots. So like in my head, I was like, I have to do this. I have to prevent blood clots. I have to walk. So I was able to get up and walk around. And pretty fast, I was able to deal with, making sure my bodily functions were cleared in such a way that they would let me leave the hospital. My mom, Wendy, and Dave were both very surprised by how coherent I was at the hospital, because my body hates opioids. Like, makes me nauseated, makes me throw up, does not like them. I'm not a pill junkie because my body does not like them. It is a horrible experience. And I knew this going in, and I knew that I was going to have to take opioids. And I let them know, I'm like, hey, I get nauseous and I throw up. My body doesn't like them. And they're like, well, we'll make this work. So they gave me something called tramadol, and they gave me a medication that was supposed to make it so I didn't throw up, if I remembered to take them both together. And so had that medication, but like, yeah, Wendy and Dave both thought that I would be loopy, and I was very coherent. And so Dave is teasing me that it's because of the fact that I'm a medical cannabis patient in Florida that I have a good tolerance for things like that. But really, I was surprised at the fact that I could be coherent, having a conversation, remembered what happened that morning, remembered everything. Because when some of my friends have had surgeries, they don't remember much that day. And I was like, oh no, I remember all of these things. I did experience breakthrough pain at one point, which sucked. And I let them know that. And the nurse came in and gave me a shot of fentanyl, which I did not expect. And oh my God, that stuff made me loopy. It was at that point in time that my bestie Mickey decided to call because he wanted to check on me. You know, Dave had my phone, and I think he posted on Facebook, and he messaged like a bunch of our friends and said, hey, you know, Cordelia came out of surgery just fine. She's doing well. The results were better than expected, blah, 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 which I really appreciated him letting people know that, because a lot of people were like, can you please just let us know what's going on? And so, yeah, that wasn't good enough for Mickey, which is fine. I knew he would call. So he called to check on me, and he's like cracking jokes, making jokes about pearl necklaces on my new titties. And I'm just like dying laughing because, you know, my mom Wendy's there. Like, Dave knows what Mickey's like this is expected. Like Mickey's family for us, so we know exactly how he is. And it was just cracking me up because my mom's sitting there and she's laughing at just as hard as we are. So I was like, well, at least she's not offended. I always thought it was a joke about how bad hospital food was. When I stayed with my grandmother in hospice during the last week of her life, and I had to eat at the hospital cafeteria. And I went down to the cafeteria. I was able to eat salads and I was able to eat burgers. They were edible food. It was just fine. So I thought maybe hospital food had improved. And no, hospital cafeteria food is fine. Hospital food that they serve you in your rooms is awful. Whatever they brought me for dinner that night of the night of my surgery, it was like some dry, tough chicken that like there was nothing to eat. Like I needed sauce, I needed something with it because I couldn't eat it. They gave me saltine crackers, mandarin oranges in a little fruit cup, and then like there was some green beans. So I could eat the green beans and I ate the mandarin oranges. And then I think Wendy went down and just got me some scrambled eggs from the cafeteria, and I ate that because the rest of the food was so gross. The next morning, they tried to serve me breakfast. They tried to serve me disgusting, soggy, like bland, tasteless. Like I don't know how you make scrambled eggs taste this nasty, but they did, with bell peppers. And I was like, hey, I'm allergic. My little band says this. So I let them know that. And then they were supposed to bring me another breakfast. And, you know, an hour went by. So Wendy went down and just got me some scrambled eggs, and I ate that. And I think like another hour or two later, they tried to bring me oatmeal. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not eating that. She got me food. We're good. And the next day that we were supposed to be checking out, like they kept telling us from, I think it was like 10 or 11 a.m. the doctor's going to be here soon to see you. But no, the doctor didn't get to see us until like 4 o'clock, which was annoying because then we got caught in rush hour traffic driving home. So on Friday morning after my surgery, my mom Wendy left. Dave went and took her home, and my friend Jessie came and stayed with me because nobody wanted to leave me home alone because I was getting up to walk as often as I could to go to the bathroom, but like people felt like I was a little like, I don't know, wobbly, and that was okay. It was fine. But that Friday morning, when they gave me a dose of tramadol, and they missed the anti-nausea pill, and I was violently sick. It hurt so bad, throwing up like that. And at that point, I said, yeah, I'm done with opioids. Give me my cannabis. I want my gummies. I want something that's not going to make me throw up because I was feeling miserable. And from that point forward, I managed my pain by rotating on a schedule with Tylenol and Advil, and then like two or three gummies every couple hours. And that was my next 2 weeks because I took 2 weeks off of work. I'm grateful that I could. I'm so grateful to work for wonderful people. Natty and Jenny are amazing. I love working with them. And being treated like a human, like a real person, people who care about me. Yeah, it was amazing. So I took those 2 weeks off, and then I went back to work. And luckily, because of the type of work that I do, the nature, I'm primarily on a computer, so I was able to work while I was continuing to heal. I had a lot of my friends come and visit me, and I really appreciate that. It was so nice to see smiling faces, and I especially loved that my friend Mirda came, and she and Steve brought me brownies, like caramel brownies. Love caramel brownies. Like, I may avoid added sugar 99% of the time, but if somebody like brings me something like that, I'm totally gonna at least take a bite. It's so nice. Oh, one thing I didn't mention, when I woke up from my surgery, I couldn't see my breasts because basically I'll insert a picture up here so you can see it. It looks to me like something out of Ghost in the Shell, like I should be in like some little like pod chamber thing. But they had me taped down. So they had my breasts taped down on each side, and then they had tape across here and tape under here. And they had 2 little tubes coming out that were suction tubes right here. And these suction tubes were attached to this little buddy that I had to wear around my neck for the week because it was just providing suction to help keep the breasts smushed to the body. And then I also had drains, 1 on each side, so here and here, that were for letting fluid come out. And drains suck, just FYI. That was the other reason why I was walking all the time, because I wanted to get my drains out as soon as possible. And so I knew the more I walked, the more I might got better blood flow, the more I would heal, the faster my drains would come out. The last 2 or 3 days with the drains was especially bad for me because like my body was trying to reject them and push them out at that point. And so that wasn't fun. Let's see, after that first week, I went to go see the plastic surgeon who checked on everything, and she decided that I was in good enough shape that the drains could come out. And let me tell you, having the drains pulled out was insanely painful. When she pulled out the first one, I almost passed out because of my vasovagal syncope. And so she took like this little sterile alcohol wipe, opened it, and put it under my nose for me to sniff to keep me from blacking out, and that actually worked. The other thing that she told me to do whenever I feel like that is that you can push back here and lift up on your jaw to disrupt that. So I now have 2 tools in my arsenal to help prevent my blackouts. It's fantastic. I did tell her I felt like my boobs were kind of sous vide up because they were just like vacuum sealed to my body. It was so weird, but getting that undone felt so good. Unfortunately, I've mentioned before many times that I'm allergic to latex, and I told them at the hospital that I'm allergic to latex, like the adhesive that's in stuff, and they still ended up using a tape that I was allergic to, so I had the world's worst rash from here to here, and then underneath as well. So I had to take I had to use like a topical cream up here and down here, and I had to take an oral medication to deal with my body's reaction to the tape, and I was in pain from my surgery, so I was just like, this is fun. This is a whole lot of fun to do. So I was thrilled to find out that after doing my surgery that my lifetime risk for breast cancer went from 40% down to less than 1%. So yay, more time with me and Dave, because that's what it comes down to, is I want more time with my loved ones. I want more time with Dave. I would feel very cheated if I, didn't have more time with him. And I know we are not promised any time, but I felt like making the decision to do this surgery now while I'm healthy made a lot of sense. I'm currently in physical therapy now. I'm going once to twice a week, depending on the week, to help regain my full range of motion. I have better than full range of motion now on my right side, but my left side is lagging. So I'm doing physical therapy on this side to fix that. And it's painful, but I'm making progress. During this whole time of going through all of this, I've had to take Dave to the emergency room a couple times. I've had to take Nix to the vet emergency room a couple times because she had limp tail syndrome, or I can't remember what the term is, but basically her tail went limp and then she hurt her paw. And then I had to take her to the vet this week because she has an upper respiratory infection. So I felt like getting through this whole thing with my surgery, life did not slow down for me. It's just been one thing after another. I've had a lot of things that I had to fix around the house and just all kinds of stuff. It's been a lot. It's been a whole lot to handle. This year has been way more challenging than I expected. Nothing about this whole experience of having a prophylactic double mastectomy with direct to implant breast reconstruction surgery has been easy. Not getting my appointments, not getting my surgery, not recovering from surgery, not doing physical therapy. This has all been a lot of hard work. And it's hard work that I am glad that I put in because I want my body to be fully healed. I want to be in the best shape that I can be. It's really important to me. Today is actually the first day that I started running with Dave to improve my VO2 max. We ran around the neighborhood this morning doing intervals, every couple, we'd run for a couple houses and then we'd stop and walk, basically running a walk. So yeah, I'm excited about that. Even though I basically had to take 2.5 months off from lifting weights, and I've had to be very careful with how I'm lifting weights now. But I'm excited that basically before the end of the year, I got to start my running to improve my VO2 max. Like I said previously in this video, I realized early on during this whole process that nobody is going to advocate for my health the way I will advocate for my health. And because of that, I put as much time and energy into getting my surgery and getting this done as fast as possible. I was scared of having the outcome of my aunt, my mother's sister, who, she found a lump and then she died because she didn't get it done in time. And I didn't want to be that statistic. I did have some people, you know, who were like, oh, I don't know that you need to be doing this. But to me, a 40% risk is too high. Like, that's why I had everything cut out. I was like, no, I don't want to save it. Just cut it all out. One thing that I did find really interesting is that, you know, how, you know, women always talk about how our boobs are not always perfectly even. Well, I can tell you exactly what mine were before my surgery. Mine was 693 and 623. So like there was like a 70 cc difference in both sides, but now they are both the same. And now I am a 32G from a 30 FF. So I don't feel, you know, I don't feel like I look tiny. I feel like I feel like I like my new shape. It's nice. I'm still getting used to it, used to how my body feels with it, because it does feel different. One of the things that I did, you know, like I mentioned prior to my surgery, I spent a lot of time doing mental work to prepare me for cutting off parts of my body. One of the first things I did after I was in my recovery room and in that bed was close my eyes and start visualizing like my body, sending white blood cells to heal my body. And like I've done a lot of visualization work to help me feel like this is my body now and this is me and this is okay. So, yeah, none of this has been easy. And I know that some people, you know, might say, oh, you've had the easiest time with this whole breast cancer scare thing. But the truth is, no, nobody who has to cut off any part of their body has an easy time with it. Not, you know, no matter if it's a skin cancer thing or if it's a breast cancer thing, it is not easy to make that decision, but I know I'm making the right decision. So if you were somebody who's looking at this and you're scared, I want you to know that you're not alone and you should make the best decision for you and your health. For me, I felt that the best decision was to go ahead and do this prophylactic double mastectomy while I am healthy and while it hasn't metastasized into cancer, so that I don't need to do chemotherapy, so that I can just be good. I really am so grateful to all of my friends and family who offered advice, who came to visit, who reached out, who FaceTimed, who called, who texted. It means the world to me. So, and I'm thankful to all of you because you've been so supportive and kind while I've been dealing with this crap. So thank you. I will say that there's definitely one thing that you absolutely need if you're going to go through a double mastectomy. You need a wedge pillow, because unless you're a back sleeper, but I was not naturally a back sleeper. So I have a wedge pillow and now I have a moon pillow that goes on top of my wedge pillow so I can sleep on my back and stay in the proper position, because I could not sleep on my side at all. I couldn't put any pressure on my side. I couldn't even lay on the front of my chest for the longest time. In fact, I hadn't even had, like, Dave and I like to do massage on each other. I wasn't comfortable laying on the massage table on my breasts until this past weekend when we tried it, and I put a pillow there and I'm like, oh, I can finally do this. Because it's like I'm so scared still to put a lot of pressure on my body. I have to keep reminding myself, this is my body now. It's okay to put pressure on your body. Because like a lot of things, like I would love laying on his chest. I just haven't felt like I could do that yet. But now I'm feeling like better and feeling like I can do these things. Okay, so that was my experience with having surgery. I hope that you enjoyed hearing about it. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.